Heyo, folks! Welcome to the channel. Today we'll be looking at yet another LEGO Star Wars set. That being LEGO set number 40755, the Imperial Dropship versus the Rebel Scout Speeder. This set released in 2024, containing 383 pieces, 7 cool figs, all for the price of $40 US. Now, this set released around the time of the LEGO Star Wars anniversary, the 25th anniversary to be exact, so you do get a unique figure for that, which we will get to that. And I do think this set is pretty fitting to go along with that line, especially considering that these are remakes of 2 Battle Pack sets from a long time ago that haven't been remade. Well, one of them was remade, which we'll get to that, but which does beg the question, are these remakes faithful to the original sets? I don't know. But that's what today's video is about, where we find that out. So let's get to it. First, we're going to be looking at the Imperial Dropship because 1, it's the first thing we build, and 2, this has been done a few times already, with the first edition being in 2008 and the other one being the 20th anniversary one, which I will say this feels slightly bigger than the previous ones. Although I will say the wings, like right here, feel smaller. I felt like in the previous versions they were a lot bigger. I feel like if you had like the wings from the 20th anniversary one and just replaced it with these puny shields, like replace the puny shields with the 20th anniversary wing pieces or whatever you want to call them, I feel like that would make this a lot better. Another thing I feel like that would make this build a little bit better is getting rid of all the brown pieces. I feel like with this build, there's just so many brown pieces just sticking out, and I feel like it's a bit of an eyesore that kind of interrupts the black and dark blue and sometimes gray color scheme. Otherwise, I think the build is alright. I do feel like maybe we could have had it a little bit bigger, just so that way we can maybe add a couple more stormtroopers in case you already had some, but you do got some slots for the main 2. Which the previous iteration had 4 minifigures, one being different, but we will get to that to the minifigure segment. But a little thing I would like to mention with the features is the wings can rotate like so. You can see the thrusters going down. I imagine like if you want to fly it, for lift off, like you can do that. Another thing worth noting is this is obviously called the Dropship, which of what do dropships do? They drop stuff. I could obviously make a joke there, but I feel like if I said the exact word, YouTube might not be happy. But anyways, you just pull this out, and like so. Now the thing is, I feel like this could have been played different, because if I recall correctly, the previous iterations had a more drop sort of feature, where this is more of a pull feature. I feel like maybe this could have been built in a way where you could just drop this rather than just slide it out. But otherwise, I think it's alright. Although you got more brown. There's so much brown on this. I mean, there's more black than there is brown, but still. As you can obviously see, this does have stud shooters, which you got the green studs, which let's fire those babies to see how it goes. Pow! And closer to the viewer, pow! Luckily, I can see where that went. Since the cockpit is facing you, why don't we take a look at that? Which I feel like this is definitely bigger than the previous iterations, and almost better. Well, better, but I feel like it's still got a few kinks. Like, you could just see how the stormtroopers just squished in there, like the arms are against the edge or whatever you want to say, which you do got a control panel which is printed, although the symbols for the Imperial logo is stickered. You got 3 stickers, 1 on this and 1 on each wing. 3 together. Let me show you what the cockpit looks like without the stormtrooper. You can see right there. You can see him, and you can watch his eye put him in. Let me show you what I mean by it. It's kind of weird. Put him in. You like connect the legs like so, and you could just see the arms going back. Oh, jeez. Not a good look, but you can see what I'm talking about. Watch the arms as they gotta get him in there. See, you saw the arms raise up, didn't you? Let's fix the blaster. There you go. I would like to mention that the head is connected by one of those ball joint pieces. I'll show a little bit of a photo of what I mean in post-editing, but yeah. I mean, aside from its kinks and all that, aside from like the brown as well as some features, I think this is a pretty solid build. Like, I do feel like maybe there could have been a few more additions, like maybe there could have been a couple more seats as well as a couple more holders. Like right here is where you would put the stormtroopers' blasters. As you can see, it's got it on both sides. I forgot to mention that, but I figured I'd mention that right now. But yeah, aside from those few flaws, I do think this is a pretty solid vehicle. Though I will say the next vehicle is kind of better than this one. Which actually, let's take a look at that, because I'm really excited to take a look at that with you guys. So let's do that right now. And now we'll be taking a look at the Rebel Scout Speeder, which I feel like this is just a massive improvement compared to the original version. Like, it feels a lot bigger and it feels a lot bulkier, in a good way though, because if you look at the previous version, it's a lot smaller and thinner, but here it's bigger and bulkier. You do got the turret up here, which can rotate 360, as you can see. Although, from the older version, if I recall correctly, you can't move the weapon up and down, but here, you can. Look at that, look at that. I do kind of miss the dish-looking element, but I think it's okay. You got this more obscure sort of piece. I don't remember the exact theme. I think maybe Nexonites. You do got this piece in black, which I do think is pretty cool, and I think it fits very well. As you can obviously see, the turret has those stud shooters, which let's fire. One in the front. I'll have to grab that. And one in the back. You can see on the back it's also got thrusters, much like the Imperial Dropship, and you can actually take the turret off like that. It's pretty, and it sits pretty well, as you can see. You do also got a bit of an open space right here, which is kind of odd. Like, I feel like maybe this could have been done a little bit better, so that way you'd have like a decent storage for your weapons and all that. I mean, you could, but I feel like this is too open to be a good storage, but that's just me. It just looks awkward. I mean, it still looks awkward if you had the turret on, as you can see from the front and from the back. I just feel like maybe something better could have been done with it. But let's take the turret back off, and we're actually going to look at the inside. You can see it's got 2 seats for each rebel, the third being on the turret. You got another one of those printed pieces right here, which is pretty cool. I just love how it looks not so tight in this. It's real nice. I do like how it's built. I do feel like with the dropship, there should have been like an extra seat in case the gunner doesn't want a gun, or if you had a 4th rebel figure, which you don't, but still. Either way, much like the Imperial dropship, this does have 3 stickers, 1 on the front and 2 on the side. It's the cockpit and all that, and you can see the bottom and all that. Yeah. And putting the turret back on, and there you go. I just feel like this is a massive improvement compared to the original version. Like, don't get me wrong, the original is nostalgic and all that. Though, if I recall correctly, the original was a bit more dull and didn't have as much color, but you do got light gray as well as red accents, which kind of adds more to the vehicle. I mean, don't get me wrong, this vehicle does have some flaws, like that little area, which I think could have been done as a proper storage, and maybe the turret could have been a little bit more bulky, so that way there's a little bit of a better seating on the back, but that's just me. Otherwise, I think this is a really amazing vehicle for this set, especially compared to the dropship. I honestly think this is kind of better than the dropship, honestly. I really like this vehicle a lot. I do love the darker windshield screen. You don't get a lot of these pieces often, I feel. And it's nice that you get to see it in a darker color. Otherwise, I don't think I have much to say, and I think it's time we look at those figures, which we're going to look at them uniquely, since they're just about the same. But let's get to those figures right now, shall we? Since the majority of these minifigures within this set are identical, we're going to be doing them together, aside from a certain figure, but we'll get to that later. Which, you do got 3 stormtroopers right here, which, if you just keep the helmet on, they're exactly the same. They got their standard leg printing, standard torso printing, and they got the exact same blaster, as well as their helmet mold, which doesn't turn like the original did back in the day. Which, you can look at the back, and you can see that they've got back printing as usual, which is very cool as always. Can't go entirely wrong with the generic stormtrooper, even if they're pretty basic, but take the helmet off and that's where the difference kicks in, because they all got different faces, which again isn't entirely anything special, because these faces have been used in the past before. I'm pretty sure this is meant to be the 3rd Inquisitor's face, as well as this face was used in the little Snowspeeder battle pack, and this face is everywhere. This is way too common of a headpiece. But aside from that, that's the thing I kind of like about the Stormtroopers, because you could just have any character in there. You can have it be dark skin, light skin, or just whatever kind. You can have a different race character. You can have a character of a different race be under the helmet. That way LEGO has an excuse to give us some new flesh-colored heads, which is really great. Which I do hope we get more unique heads that aren't like reuses or anything in the future, but yeah, I think that's really nice that they do this. Aside from their heads, there's nothing really unique about the figures. Like I said, if you put the helmets on, they're very much the same. There's nothing unique. Which the same could sort of be said about the next batch of figures. However, you'd be able to notice the differences pretty quickly. So let's take a look at those now. And next we have the Rebel Troopers, which, unlike the Stormtroopers, you're more likely to notice their differences with the faces and all that. All the minifigures have the exact same torso, headpiece, and printing and all that. Although, one minifigure has a different hand color to go along with their skin tone. They all got these light silver blasters to go with each other, and they of course got their iconic Rebel Trooper helmet. Which, let's take the helmets off to get a better look at their faces. You can see. One thing I will point out that kind of irks me is that this minifigure uses his Captain Antilles' headpiece, which on one hand I kind of understand to go with a random generic Rebel Trooper with the little helmet strap or whatever you want to call it, but at the same time I feel like they could have done a little something unique. Unlike the previous figures, they do have alternate expressions. You of course got one minifigure here having Antilles' expression for his encounter with Darth Vader, and you got these two figures having a bit of an angry sort of expression, as if they're in battle. I do think this headpiece is new, though, compared to these two, which have been used before. I do think this might be new. Then again, I could be wrong. This could have been the same one used in the Rebel base set, but again, I could be wrong. I'll be sure to edit in the video to see if it's right or wrong, but still, it is nice to get more of these Rebel figures. I do feel like I failed to mention this in the previous segment, but I do wish we had, like, an extra Rebel figure, and with Stormtroopers, I feel like to make things a little bit more unique, I feel like that they should have added the Shadow Trooper, which was in the original Dropship, as well as the remake of the Dropship for the 20th anniversary. But this set doesn't include it. I feel like they should have included it in this set. And you're probably wondering, well, what are they going to add for the Rebel side? Just another generic Rebel? True. But you could add one minifigure that would make the set twice as valuable. Rebel Friend. That would definitely make the set sell well. I feel like if you made the set bigger, gave us a couple more minifigures, that would have made the set sell even better. Even if it jacked the price up a bit by maybe $45 or $50, I feel like if you had Rebel Friend in that set as well as the Shadow Trooper, no one would complain. Maybe about the price, which I understand, but still. This set definitely should have had Rebel Friend as well as that Shadow Trooper. I feel like those figures, especially the Shadow Trooper, would have been needed for this set. Aside from that, these figures are pretty okay for what they are. I do feel like that maybe we should have got a different Rebel expression rather than reuse Antilles, but it is what it is, I suppose. But we're not done yet. So let's take a look at the final figure we have, which I think is the most unique of the bunch. Before we get into depth about the figure itself, we're going to share a little bit of background info. At the time of the 2024 rumors and all that, at the summer sets and all that, with the rest of the anniversary line, we were rumored to get a R2-KT figure, which is not only awesome because of the background, but also it would be a pretty cool addition to the LEGO Star Wars minifigure collection, which technically we did get R2-KT, but not in the way you'd expect. We were thinking that we were going to get a minifigure R2-KT, but instead we got QT-KT. Yeah, such an iconic droid. You definitely remember QT-KT, right? So iconic. I feel like I can't help but feel like this is kind of like a monkey's paw situation, where someone was like, I wish they would make a LEGO R2-KT, which LEGO did. But instead of a minifigure, you got a brick-built one. And you just happen to have a random droid that's not as iconic in comparison. I don't know, it's been a while since I've watched the Clone Wars, which I think they were first introduced in the Clone Wars, but I don't personally remember seeing them. But like I said, it's been a while, which I do feel like it's also a bit awkward since a lot of the minifigures with the 25th anniversary line were iconic in a way. Like you had Clone Trooper 5, who was an important clone in the Clone Wars series, or Darth Maul with the one book, because he was like one of the very first Lego Star Wars minifigures, or Cal Kestis, because he's from one of the best Star Wars based games. But R2KT is kind of random. I mean, yeah, you do got young Princess Leia and Saw Gerrera, but I feel like they kind of deserve their spot because they kind of deserve figures of their own, as well as they are pretty iconic in their material. But R2KT just kind of feels like a bit of a weird addition to the 25th anniversary line, but I don't know, it's just me. But aside from that, this figure is actually pretty cool with the all pink color scheme. You do got some white on there, you can see on their little front of them, as well as the top. It got some really cool printing. You got like the yellow stripes and all that. You do got the back of the dome too. Unfortunately, you don't have back printing on them, which is interesting because more modern adaptations of R2-D2 have printing on the back, but this doesn't. It doesn't seem to be the way with the other astromech droids, unless there's an astromech droid I'm not thinking of, but I know that R2-D2 lately has been getting printing on the back, but unfortunately, QTKT does not have any printing. I mean, as a minifigure, I think they're pretty good. I mean, despite the oddness behind them, I think it's really nice, and they of course come with a 25th anniversary plaque, which you got this brick right here, which you can take it off or what if you want. This would make it so that way you can connect to other figures. Like you can have it connect to Clone Trooper 5s or Darth Malgus or whoever else. But yeah, despite their odd background, I do think this is a really nice minifigure. I mean, I do wish we got R2KT, but still, it's nice that we got a unique astromech droid. Though I still wish we'd got R2KT. But anyways, I think it's time we wrap up this video, so let's get straight to that. Overall, I do think this is just a really great set. In terms of remakes, I think these are some pretty faithful remakes of this set. I mean, don't get me wrong, these sets do have flaws. Like, I feel like this could have been done, like, the builds could have been done a little bit better. Or some things could have been added. Like, I think I forgot to mention, I do think there could have been a weapon storage for this, as well as maybe some, like, little slots where you can put the blasters, because I think the old version of this did have little slots where you can put the Rebels blasters, or the Dropship having a more drop type of play feature. But aside from their flaws, I do think this is a really solid set. It's a nice little army builder type of set, which does include a really unique figure, even if it's a little bit of an odd placement, but still. I really like how we get some more Rebel figures as well as some more Stormtrooper figures, though I will say I do feel like this should have had at least 2 extra figures, that being the Shadow Trooper as well as the Rebel Friend, or just a generic Rebel, but still. I do think this is a really cool set to get. But would I recommend this set? Yeah, I definitely would. Although I feel like if you're able to get it for a cheaper price, please get it for a cheaper price. I know I say that a lot, but I really do mean it. Especially since I do feel like maybe 40 is a bit too much, but that's just me, and I just think it's better to save your money a little bit, but still. Either way, I think this is a pretty cool set. Anyways, I think that'll be all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment all that because it helps, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one!